Welcome to Blues Chapter 18. You'll love this. We're going to study left-hand tritones, right-hand blues riffs, and the roadmap to improvisation. I'll never forget the day I was playing a gig with a drummer. We were playing through the blues, and I was playing these two-note tritone chords in my left hand, just really simple two-note chords. And the drummer is actually kind of a keyboard player, more of a drummer, and he actually stopped playing, and he came over and said, "How do you get such a bluesy sound with just two notes in your left hand?" I stopped and I quickly showed him the concept of tritones, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "I've never heard a sound like that coming out of only two notes, and it's so simple, I know I'll use that." And you know he's right. Once you get the concept of tritones down, you'll never go back. Now we've studied tritones before, but in today's lesson, we'll go even further. Now for your right hand in this lesson, we've got some really exciting material as well. I'm going to teach you 4 simple blues riffs that you can use over these tritones. In addition, we'll also be studying a rock-solid technique that will enable you to start improvising or coming up with your own blues riffs and your own sound on the keyboard as you play through the blues. It's really an awesome way to learn to play. Let me quickly give you a little preview of these 4 riffs against those tritones. Later in this lesson, we're going to zoom really close in and show you slow, note for note, how all these riffs are put together. But just for a preview, let's take a look at those right-hand riffs. The first one is only made up of 4 notes. Here they are. And you'd think, what could you do with those 4 notes? By the way, do you recognize those 4 notes? They're the bottom half of the blues scale. There's the whole blues scale. Now these are just the first 4 notes. You can take even simple notes and really make fun riffs. Let me play this riff up to speed. Remember, we'll study it in detail later, but this is what it sounds like with these tritones. Kind of a cool little ditty with just 4 notes. The amazing thing though, especially coming from the blues scale, these are taken from the blues scale. One of the most amazing things about riffs built on the blues scale is that they work over every chord in the blues. Let's try that out with this simple little riff and see how it works. So it works great over the first chord in the blues. Now the left hand changes to the second chord, but that right hand riff just keeps working. Back to the first chord. Left hand moves to the third chord. So I'm stating the obvious, but you can keep playing that right hand riff in the same exact position, even though the left hand kept changing to the different chords in the blues. That's an amazing property that the blues scale has. Riffs built on the blues scale work over every chord in the blues. Let's move on in our quick preview of these right hand riffs. Remember, we'll study them in detail. But this is riff number 2. It utilizes the next couple notes of the blues scale. Remember the blues scale? The second riff uses these notes. Just those 4 notes. But you can make a really fun riff out of that. In fact, we're going to use an old blues trick called the double roll. It crushes the notes together. So 3 notes are crushed together, giving it that sound. And then we follow it with riff number 1. And remember, we'll study all these riffs in extreme detail later in this lesson. Now let's see how that works in context. We'll play through the blues again. This time we'll put that new riff to work in the right hand. The left hand will be playing the tritones that we'll study later, but the right hand are these simple riffs that work over every chord in the blues. This time we'll be combining those riffs. We'll always start with riff number 2, and then we'll follow it up with that first riff. Now the left-hand chord is going to change. But again, that right-hand riff keeps working great. Because this is just a quick overview of this entire 1-hour lesson, let's jump ahead to the point where we're putting together the right-hand riffs with the left-hand tritone chords. Now let's make this whole thing work for you. Coming up next is really the meat of this lesson. We'll be studying 2 things at once. For your left hand, we'll be studying those left-hand 2-note tritone chords. For your right hand, we'll be studying a fantastic way to learn to begin to improvise in the blues. Here's how we're going to do that. You can see that I've placed a graphic above what I'm playing. In the right hand, it's the G blues scale, every single note. In the left hand, it's the tritones that are going to show up as we roll through the blues. There's 3 of them. And as we play, they will automatically change. So it always gives you a cue what tritone to play. And there's 3 that show up. Let's talk about your right hand just for a second. When the track starts and we begin to practice, I won't change any of the green notes on the screen because I want you to pick from them randomly. That's really a key to what we're about to do. Now, we're not yet studying those 4 right-hand blues riffs that I talked about earlier. That will come later in this lesson. During this section of the lesson, while we study those left-hand tritone chords, we'll also be studying a simple technique to begin learning how to improvise over the blues. The amazing thing that's going to make this possible is a unique property of the blues scale. Let me show you. You know, I've shown so many students this simple fact of the blues scale, and it always amazes me. You can play all the way through the blues, playing all the different chords in the left hand, and while you do that, the right hand can start improvising by just picking notes from the G blues scale, and it will always work over every chord as you play through the blues. With that in mind, let me show you a rock-solid way of learning to improvise over the blues. The trick is to first start improvising with your right hand by randomly picking notes from the bottom section of the blues scale. I'm just randomly picking notes with my right hand from the blues scale. We're not really playing any blues riffs yet, but it's a great way to learn to improvise. All the while, the left hand plays those simple tritones. After you've practiced and got comfortable, start picking random blues scale notes higher up on the keyboard. Each step of this process involves one thing: practice, just like it always does. But in the full lesson, I've included many different resources to help you get there. But just to see where we're going, let's jump ahead to step 5 and see what the end result is. Double speed becomes really useful when you're taking a solo in the blues. I hope you're starting to see how this can really give you a clear roadmap as you're learning to improvise in the blues. To help you do that, This full lesson contains over 30 minutes worth of practice tracks, just like the track you saw me improvising with a minute ago. These additional practice tracks are in 5 different keys and at 2 different speeds. For example, this practice track is in the key of F. Try pulling up your keyboard for just a second, and when I roll this track, improvise with your right hand by picking from the green notes, and with your left hand, just play the blue notes as they change to the different tritones. This is so much fun to do. Here we go. The left hand's going to change. And again. In the full lesson, I've also included a book that you can print. It shows fingering for all of the blues scales in all 12 keys. It also shows each group of 3 left-hand tritone chords that you can use as you're playing through the blues in every key. This is an incredible resource. Make sure you print and keep that book handy. Quite a bit of time in the full lesson is devoted to the roadmap to improvisation. It's that important. You want to be able to be free on the keyboard and to be able to express yourself musically. But just to give you some new ideas, I've also included a section on studying 4 brand new blues riffs. Let's take a look at some of that now. Riff number 2, slowed down, sounds like this. Then when you begin to roll those notes in that double roll a little quicker, sounds like this. A little quicker yet. When you bring it up to about half speed, it sounds like this. I really like that speed, kind of groovy. I've got to tell you, this is all incredibly fun stuff. I love putting this together, and I know you'll love going through this. Again, since this is just an overview, let's jump ahead and do the last few seconds of the final product where we're putting all 4 of those riffs together with the band. Well, there it is. Blues 18 is in the can. So much to study. I really hope you enjoy digging in and really becoming a great musician. To study through this entire lesson now, which includes over an hour's worth of video as well as charts, head over to PlayPianoTODAY.com/B18, like Blues 18. Once again, my name is David Sprunger from PlayPianoTODAY.com. Now you know what to do. Go practice.